You are listening to episode 230 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John, and I'm joined by Ryan.
Hey, everybody, here at the Game Deflators Podcast, we like to talk about games. We've recently picked up games we're currently playing, and we get wet and wild in this week's Inflation Deflation Challenge.
Makes it sound like spring break, which I guess technically we're in that time frame, right?
Yeah, I think it is spring break right now, actually. Yeah. I love it. It's been great weather in the valley.
It definitely has, dude. So Ryan is referring to Rain on Your Parade by Unbound Creations. It's a title that Premium Edition Games currently has on their website for purchase. Yep. Thanks to Premium Edition Games team. It's pretty cool. We'll go over it here in a little bit towards the end of our segment. But first, you can find us on the GameDeflators.com, our out-of-date website. You can find us on YouTube also. Just search up the Game Deflators. Facebook and Instagram at the Game Deflators, and Twitter is at Game Deflators. You can also find us. They don't like that. You can also find us on the podcast app you are listening to right now. Leave us a 5-star review. And you can find us on other podcast apps, which you should also leave a 5-star review. Do it twice.
Thank you.
All right, let's get started with our recent pickups as always. For me, Ryan, I got a new router in my house.
Do you feel faster?
I feel much faster, actually. My Wi-Fi speeds went from like 45 down to 100 and something down on my Wi-Fi speeds, which is kind of nice.
It's crazy night and day how big a new router can make. Like I was throttled at like 45 and now like my upstairs is like 450. And I'm like,
so my router, I owned it for about 5 years, but had already been on the market for 5 years. So, we're talking
ancient
10
tech at the time.
We're talking ancient tech for a router. And whatever I got just now had like, I don't know, 4.7 stars on Amazon and was like $130 for a new router. I'm like, that sounds good. That covers 3,000 square feet. I think we're solid in my house and my external area. So move forward with it. And I'm happy with the speeds. Very nice. So it's a new Asus router. And then I just put on a new pickup here, Rain on Your Parade. We obviously got that technically in the mail last week, but we just opened it now. So it's new to us. And as far as currently playing is concerned for me, I finally dug back into Cardia, World of Fate. And I ended up finishing the first half of the game. So I beat Lacrima's chapter. So to kind of go back into how this game is formatted for people, if you're new to the podcast and you're just now kind of catching up, I don't know when I started talking about Cardia. It'd probably be early January, mid-February when I started talking about it. But the game is split up into essentially 2 chapters, kind of like a storybook. So you have Toxa, who is like this knight, and then you have Lacrima, who is technically, I don't want to say, she's a shrine maiden, basically, or shrine warrior. And you pick one of their 2 chapters to kind of go into, and depending on which one you go into, tells a different story, right? But at the end, those stories intertwine. So no matter what you do, you're always going to get like kind of the same ending, a little different. So first one I played was Lacrima's chapter, went through the entire thing, definitely enjoyed it. I think the story itself, I've mentioned a few times now, the story is actually very good on this game, like probably around a 9, I would think, in terms of overall story. But the gameplay, like the tactical aspects of this RPG, the level up factor doesn't seem to really do much of anything. I mean, it does, but not so much. The way you handle magic is pretty cool. The items and how you kind of pick those up throughout the map are pretty cool too. But there's things missing. Like there's no towns, obviously. It's just straight story battle, story battle, story battle. So it's kind of lacking in a few different areas. But overall, I mean, in what I've played so far, I would say it's around a 7, roughly. That's kind of where I'm at this point. 7.5, somewhere around there, which is pretty decent. I think that's about what most reviewers put this game at, actually. So my feelings are pretty similar to that. But dude, I enjoyed the story a lot. I mean, I finished obviously that first half of the game, and it really kind of takes its twists and turns throughout, and there's a lot of missing pieces. And now that I'm playing the other side story, I started it yesterday as well and got through the first chapter out of 18. It's really starting to open up like, oh crap. So that was happening on the back end while I was doing all of this other stuff in the game. I kind of wish though that they wouldn't have done that. Like it just would have made more sense instead of splitting the game into 2 chapters with a total of 34 hours of gameplay. Why not just merge the two and have you kind of bounce back between stories during that time frame? So like you finish chapter 1, you go through this other thing, and then oh, by the way, we're going to jump over to Toxa and go over Toxa's story and what's happening here, and just over time those elements just kind of intertwine as you play. I don't know why they split it up in such a way. And then as you're playing the game too, like on Lacrimas, you're playing as, obviously every like multiple characters, but Lacrima, while she's the main like part of a story, the story focuses on Kun. It's Kun is how they spell his name. And you kind of like you get this vibe of like you're playing Kun's story and not Lacrima's story throughout. Like he seems to be more of the protagonist than she does at times. And so that was kind of odd to me, but it was still good, still enjoyable. So I'll report back when I continue playing this new story, which is starting me from scratch, obviously. So all the introductory stuff like, oh, this type of element is better against this one and so on. But so far, so good. I think I'll get through it a lot faster now, just given that I understand the game mechanics a little bit better than I did at first. And we'll go from there. Yeah. So, yeah, definitely enjoying that. And then I think I will probably bounce between this and Rain on Your Parade, actually, because we played, I don't know, like 6 or 7 levels yesterday.
Yeah, we played a handful of levels, but like, man, that overworld on there was huge.
Oh, yeah, dude, there's like so many levels to play. So I think I'm going to bounce into that here as well and enjoy that. See how that goes. All right, how about yourself?
So I picked up Dredge, which just came out. It is a fishing / spooky kind of mystery adventure kind of game. You play as a fisherman new to a set of islands. There are some strange things going on. A fog rolls in at night and hides all kinds of creepy and dangerous things. You spend your time catching fish and bringing them back to the town and selling them, dredging up old materials to upgrade your boat, doing research to discover new types of rods or fishing nets or crab pots, technologies that you can upgrade at the shipwright to enhance your ability to go out and catch different kinds of fish. It's got its own unique little mini games for a lot of the different fish. Mostly it's a circle that's going around with like a dial, and it's got like different blocks where there are green windows, and you want to hit it in those green windows to, reel in the fish quicker, because you're kind of just slowly reeling them in over time. But whenever you're fishing, time passes. You don't want to be caught on the open water at night. You stay close to the shore. And there's a madness effect that goes on when you see strange things, and it makes things more dangerous. Very engaging, very fun. I really did enjoy the tight loop of the time of the day, and going out, doing my best to catch everything, and being afraid at night, hugging the shores, and doing my best to slowly poke out over time as I got braver. I haven't quite finished the game. I got up to the point where it's like, hey, is there anything else you really want to do? Or do you want to do this thing? And I'm like, okay, I don't know. I'll take a couple days to think about that. And I haven't gotten back to it yet. But it's getting a lot of big fanfare. A lot of people are saying that it sounds like, it could be on some top lists for the year for some people. I definitely was really excited as soon as I saw it. I convinced my friend to buy it because he buys like everything on Steam. And then as soon as he played like 10 minutes of it, I was like, I've got to go home and do this myself instead.
Nice. How much is it on Steam?
I think it's like $25 or something new.
All right. So I'll wait for a Steam sale, but it sounds interesting. It sounds like something I do want to play. By the way, pickup wise, I forgot to mention something. I am having my my Cthulhu Age of Madness from Strange Aeon Games is actually shipping very soon. So we will have that to play in person.
Yeah, there's a physical edition of Dredge coming out too. I sent you a link for the other day.
Yeah, but I think I'm going to get it on Steam. I need more from my PC. I need to enjoy my PC more. And honestly, like if I want to beat a game, it seems like sitting on the couch nowadays equates to me falling asleep in an hour, if not less. But on my computer, I will stay up, you know. So I think that's the way to go right now is gaming on PC until my son grows up a little more.
Yeah, this was one of those games where it's like a lot of the times, like I don't even think about buying physical games a lot of the time anymore. I mean, we talk about it. Like there's certain games that I do want to buy. Like I've been borrowing my friend's Switch because he digitally bought Metroid Prime Remake,
Yeah.
and he's not playing it because he already finished it. And he's out of town, so I've been borrowing that for a while. And I just decided I'm going to give it back to him because I'm probably just not in the mood to finish it. It's been a couple of weeks since I played, and I just don't want to go back into the mazes of that game right now. But I would eventually really like to have a physical copy of that for Switch. And I don't anticipate it being hard to get eventually.
Speaking of GameCube games, how is Pikmin going?
Pikmin is not going. I've not played Pikmin in some time either. I played like one session and got further than I was. But I mean, the game's only 8 hours long, so I've only got like probably like 5 or 6 more hours with it at best. So, I mean, the next time I sit down could be the last.
This is shades of Zone of the Enders. You remember when you were like, yeah, I'm almost there. And then we squeaked it out right at the end.
Right, yeah, it got done, is what you're telling the people. You're telling everybody I did exactly what I said I was going to do, and there were no problems.
Or will it be like Persona? It could be like Persona. We'll see.
I'm already halfway done, almost.
All right.
I got 12 hours into Persona, and that was not even like scratching the surface.
I'm just going to say I'm halfway done with my game, and it's the first half was 17 hours.
Yeah. Let's see. I did boot up Breath of the Wild like a week ago after the Tears of the Kingdom thing happened. I got like really jazzed and I was like, oh man, I should like spend an afternoon just like running around in Breath of the Wild. And I did like most of the plateau area again. And man, is it still like fun and has me really excited. I mean, we're like a month away now on that. And I was thinking about it. Like I definitely thinking that's going to be like a day one pickup for me. Like I'm not even, despite wearing a Zelda shirt right now, I'm not a giant Zelda fan by any stretch. I'm just really jazzed for this game in particular. And really with Nintendo, like you might as well buy it day one. Like it's never going to go down in price. So I'm getting pumped for that. And then I did have a really interesting report. So Brave Fencer Musashi, I've been playing that a couple weeks ago. I was sitting at home and I was like, maybe I'll finish this tonight. And I got really far. Like I'm at like, I beat what I thought was like the final boss, but now I think I have to fight like the final boss. And so I've been using the RetroArch on the PS1 Classic. And there's kind of a couple layers to the saving system in there. You can save in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a digital memory card that you use for keeping those save files. If you're in the game and you hit the reset button on the console, it'll pull back to the like emulator menu, and it has 4 different save slots there for like resuming files at a certain point.
Yeah.
And then when you're playing the game, there's a single use save slot that you can just save and load. So there's like a few different layers here. And I was like going through it in the game. There's a few scenes where there's like chase scenes where you've got to like run and platform. Like the platforming in this game is so brutal and hard. That's why I don't understand how anybody could play this normally, because it would just be so frustrating and difficult and take forever, I would imagine. So I was using like, okay, I'll use one of those 4 bigger save slots as like my main thing for trying to keep my progress throughout the file. And then I'll just use the quick save one so that I can just kind of incrementally move up until I feel comfortable making a new save. Because like once you're playing with emulation and doing save states and stuff and it gets complicated, like the worst thing you can do is accidentally save yourself into a corner and then you're just screwed and you've got like no recourse unless you have like some old backup or something.
Yeah.
So trying to avoid that, I think the system was just chugging along and it was this really frustrating part. I don't know what happened, but like it it stopped working. Like the one of 4 slots that I was using became grayed out.
Oh.
When I would try to access any of the other 3 slots, it would just boot up like the PlayStation boot logo, like it was starting the game fresh from the very beginning. But once in there, I could load exactly where I was with the individual save slot, but I could not update that, and I could not resave anything on another file. And I've been scared to go back ever since. From what I've been told and read, unplugging the console and letting it just kind of chill should, hopefully make it so that it works. Like it may have just gotten a little like shorted or hot, or I don't know, technology. But man, it was like, no, I'm like right here at the end, and there's this impossible screen. Like the next screen, I must have tried like 40 times. It's literally I'm on like a big bridge with like a kind of tower thing at the end, like coming off of a castle. So I'm running across the stone bridge, and I'm on a platform, and there's a little cutscene. And then the next screen, go ahead. I see you.
Oh no, go on. Yeah.
The next screen, you like run off the screen onto a little just corner path with a single jump. And for the life of me, I cannot run 10 meters forward, make a right-hand turn, and make this jump onto the next platform. I tried for like 20 minutes and just gave up because I was like, I can't update the save state, and I can't make this jump. And that was like a week and a half ago, and I just walked away, and I haven't even tried it again since.
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play Brave Fencer Musashi and get to that point, and then I'm going to be like, Ryan, come over so we can beat this together.
Dude, if you can get to that point on like the actual PlayStation without using save states and stuff, you will be a way, way better gamer than I am, and I think you already are.
Well, I mean, it's a game I've always wanted to play, and I just looked it up. It's about 16 hours. Yeah, it's only like 16 hours long, so it might be worth me booting up at some point here.
I mean, that's the thing, though. Like, it's only 16 hours long if you do everything right and don't have to spend forever figuring stuff out. Like, trust me, dude, you are going to want to use the guidebook for this one, because there is so much just like, oh, here's like a whole set of maze hallways that if you go through the wrong door, you got to start over.
So I actually have the strategy guide, the physical version.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're good. We were prepped for this years ago, Ryan. I think I bought it for $1.
Yeah,
so
I've actually been
prepped.
using that on like somebody has it scanned online.
Yeah, like the Brady Games one or whatever it is. Yeah, I've got a copy. Nice. Sweet. Well,
so yeah, that's my gaming this week. Recommend Dredge. Don't recommend Brave Fencer. Well, I recommend Brave Fencer Musashi anyways. But yeah.
Discussion topic. Did you have one this week?
Oh gosh, that's always the question, isn't it? Well, we don't have an article.
I mean, we got D&D. I don't know if we talked about the last session of what you guys did.
We could talk about the Mario movie. Neither of us have seen it yet, but we could kind of talk about like our anticipations of it.
Well, we're kind of going to be talking about that a little bit later.
Yeah, that'll be a better topic once we know about it.
Yeah.
God, we should really figure this out ahead of time.
We probably should, but I think with the D&D thing...
It's the question of the week all over again.
Yeah, question of the week all over. Yeah, I mean, so we can just really quick. I mean, the D&D session you guys did last time, you went to the Underdark as part of a field trip. And for me, that was a bit of a toss-in because I was like, I got to get something for you guys that's a little more substantial than you guys go to the bar. And then after the bar, several weeks pass and you take a test. And then once the test is concluded, you level up. Like that's literally how it's written in the book. You go to the bar, you go do this test, players are level 2. I'm like, that makes no sense whatsoever. I would need to get them on some sort of mini quest. And so I tied in, of course, the Underdark. And dude, you guys were so hesitant on killing little mushrooms. It was the greatest thing ever.
I mean, what did you want from us? Like, we're students.
Oh, I know. I was waiting to see if you guys would be ruthless or what would happen. I had 2 scenarios plotted out. One was, and it's literally written down, they will probably not kill the little Myconans. So you need to bring Sturges in. Mm-hmm. Like, that's literally what's written down. And then everything else is off the top of my head as you guys were kind of going through and interacting in the traps.
It was good.
I like how you guys have like organically, just kind of created content on the fly. Like, oh, well, I want to do this. Okay, cool. You go through and you do this whole process and this happens. And it's been very nice to have a group that's, kind of really wanting to engage in the content versus a group that's like hesitant to really do anything. Like, you guys are being super creative with what you do. And so that's been pretty fun. I just like that you guys traded for their dead.
Yeah, that was bizarre.
Like, yeah, it was super bizarre. Like, I don't think that's technically something that would ever happen, but I'm like, I think I can build it in, and kind of go from there. But I do think it was pretty funny adding the Snurf Neblins and then having them be like
they're just all Jersey.
They're just all from Jersey. Yeah. Sorry, Barry. They're all from Jersey, and more, not really like, they're more like Jersey Shore, not necessarily Jersey. It's Jersey Shore. And the whole thing, I'm like, oh yeah, you got to get the little ones. They're the sweetest for like eating. And you guys are like, what the fuck? It was so good.
It's shaping up really good. I'm really enjoying it so far.
Yeah, and you guys are level 2 now, so that'll be fun. Kind of get you guys some more spells, and
I need to do that.
Yeah, I need to prep for the next session. So luckily, the book is spelled out as to like what happens next session. But I got to see what I want to do. Like, I'm probably going to have more class time with you guys, and then see what you all can develop organically for like, story type stuff as we're playing, because that seems to be the trend. I kind of throw a couple things your way, and then you guys just kind of blow it up into what it is. And we go from there, and you guys interact with one another. So I'm pretty happy with how it's all flowing as well. So
good.
Okay. It was a short discussion topic. Unless you had anything else. Did you see a D&D movie yet or no?
No, not yet. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen the Mario movie. I want to see these movies, but
I have better excuses. I have a better excuse than you do, though. You should go.
Oh,
see
yeah. Yeah. I should totally go see them, but I just haven't.
And you're yawning in spite of the fact that I'm on like 3 hours of sleep right now.
Oh, yeah. I'm just rubbing it in, man.
Oh, my God, dude. Yeah. Dude, that sucked. My kid waking up at like 12:30 in the morning, and then I like kind of fell back asleep. And then my wife gets me at like an hour and a half later. She's like, he's been up for an hour and a half. He won't stop crying. And he just literally would not stop crying. Like, it was the weirdest thing. So we gave him a bath and everything. And next thing you know, it's like 4:30 in the morning, and I'm trying to get him to go to sleep on my shoulder. And it finally happened. And I slept till 7. So it was not fun. That sucked. All right. Articles this week. We're going to talk about Sony citing that Redfall interview with Harvey Smith for the in response to CMA. And then we're going to talk about Nintendo and a cinematic universe, and Microsoft escalating its war against PlayStation and Nintendo, or against PlayStation and Nintendo emulation. So the first one here is Sony cites Redfall's Harvey Smith after cancellation of PS5 version in its response to CMA. This is WCCF Tech, and this is Ernout van de Velde. I am guessing that this is a French publication. And basically, we went over the fact that the UK regulators have said, yep, it's all good. It's all fine for Microsoft to move forward with the acquisition. And what they've gone ahead and done is sent out for responses to Sony and Microsoft. Microsoft, of course, saying, oh, thanks. It's the greatest thing ever. We're so appreciative of the CMA and its decision, blah, 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 blah. Sony's like, screw you guys. Here's an interview that just happened a little bit ago, but clearly shows that Microsoft is willing to take games off of a PlayStation 5. And this has been our concern this entire time. I don't know why this wasn't brought up prior. It just makes no sense that they're just now kind of throwing things like this into play, because you would think that Redfall would have been discussed with Sony prior to its development starting with Bethesda, right? And so at that point, you would think Sony should know well in advance when they see it's an Xbox exclusive. Ding, ding, ding. Something's happened. We're not getting this game when it was already agreed upon. Why was that not brought up before all of this? That makes no sense to me. And I'm sure there's other instances. Obviously, Starfield is probably one of those as well, where they could cite, hey, this was likely going to be on our console. It's not. Elder Scrolls 6, another one that would be on our console, and it's not. Why are these things coming up now? This should have been brought up in the argument a long time ago. And the whole thing was focused on Call of Duty, when realistically it should have been focused on the fact that they have all of these new IPs, the likes of which probably 90% of them are not going to be on a Sony console, due to the fact that they're not, as we've mentioned before, as profitable as something like Call of Duty.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely been... Microsoft has probably been playing a good game here by trying to keep the entire content focused mostly on just Call of Duty because of all the other IP that they're going to be picking up. Like, that's going to be a huge win all on its own, getting like all the Blizzard stuff and the King stuff in, and nobody really is even raising an eyebrow about that for the most part. But like, the thing that I don't get with this, so was working on a PlayStation 5 version of the game. Like, what does that even mean? Like, does that mean that 5 years ago when they were developing the game and doing, you know, all the beginning stuff or however far in they were, like, I imagine in my mind, and I'm not a game developer, tell me if I'm wrong, you start building the game and at some point you have to start like getting it to work for like the consoles, right? Or do you start with like each console from the beginning and just develop them all at the same time? Like, I kind of imagine everything starts on the computer and then it's like, okay, we got it like working. Now we can kind of like move it over to an Xbox and Xboxify it, move it over to a PlayStation and PlayStationify it so that it works properly on those systems because they're not just a computer like we built it on. That's how I imagine. So it's like there was never like any public showing of like, here's Redfall with a Sony logo associated to it. That never happened. So like, I imagine that whenever you're building a game, you're like, well, you know what? We've released like all our games on all different consoles. So let's just imagine doing that again. Like, just imagining that you're going to put something on a console isn't really the same as developing it for that console and then having that development canned and shuttered. Like, I mean, if they had put like millions of dollars specifically into developing aspects of just the Sony version of this game and threw that away, that would be a lot more than, I don't know, we just imagined it would be multi-platform and then we got bought out and they said it wasn't.
Well, I think part of it's to look at too, and as far as I know, it was in process being developed for PS5 and that was scrapped. So I think
we only have that one line. It doesn't really go in depth.
No, it doesn't. But here's the thing to kind of consider, right? The Elder Scrolls games outside of, we'll say 3 and below or before that, you had Skyrim and you had Oblivion, were both on PlayStation consoles. One would think in terms of profitability that you would put the next Elder Scrolls also on PlayStation. The same could be said for Fallout. Is Fallout ever going to come back to PlayStation? Doubtful. Redfall is another instance. Redfall's another instance where a game was likely going to go multi-platform. They've stated it would be multi-platform. So when you look at Bethesda's history and the games being released multi-platform for a number of years, and now all of a sudden a number of Bethesda games are not multi-platform, one could conclude that the same will happen for Activision. And also, as far as, it's concerned with Call of Duty, they're making these 10-year deals, right? Why would you, if you are not going to be profitable or it's not going to be worthwhile to make this acquisition, then why would you say it's a 10-year deal? The likelihood is we think we'll get all of our money back within 10 years of releasing various Call of Duty games on these consoles. And after that period of time, we no longer need to because the deal has already been made and it's worth the purchase at that point, and then it can become exclusive. So, this is a long-term, I don't see them re-upping necessarily onto those other consoles once they've made their money from that. Like, there's no point. Make it exclusive and then start getting more people over to your console at that point.
I think it depends. So, like, if like the way timeline plays out and how many units are actually out there, like there may be a point where it makes sense one way or the other. And I don't even know where to begin to calculate the math for that. But like, it just seems in my mind that like Skyrim was so huge everywhere and everybody still buys it and plays it. So like people are going to be dying for the next one. Like if that is going to come out, let's say like 5 years from now, is the PlayStation 5 going to be like so dominant that there's like, all right, it's their, it's the second coming of the PS4. Like there's just so many more of them out there than Xbox is, and Xbox, like despite its best effort, has not been able to compete in just sheer volume units purchased on a global basis. Like at that point, is releasing one more big game exclusively going to be enough to get all those people to say, okay, it's been 8 years, I'm going to buy an Xbox now just for the new Elder Scrolls game? Or is it more likely to be like, okay, well, everybody would buy this, and there's like 10 million more PS5s out there than Xboxes, and we really only think that, like, you know, a few 100,000 people would really make the conversion and actually commit to buying an Xbox for this game, because it hasn't worked for anything else. Like, nobody came over when we released Starfield, and we released that on Game Pass, so we didn't really make like a lot of unit sales off of that anyways. Like, if this gambit doesn't pay off and there is a big enough difference, like, it might still make sense at some point to like do the multi-platform and bring it back for those really big titles, because like Redfall was never going to make people buy an Xbox, but it probably wasn't going to make a big enough splash that they felt they needed to put it out there to get the money from the PlayStation users. Because like Arcane is making a big change here. Like, this is not like their usual style game, and they haven't had like stellar sales on any of their usual style games. So like, I just think depending on the size and the risk and where things are, like, also like, what if there's not going to be a next Xbox, but there's going to be a next PlayStation? Like, you know, they would definitely put it on like a console, because they're still going to make the money from selling the games, because they own the IP in the company. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be about consoles at that point.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of things in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I do wonder if there's opportunity for Microsoft to charge Sony more per unit sold. You know, like,
listen, Sony, baby, we're going to charge you about $65 a game. You can make the $5 difference.
I mean, if you think about it, like, if they go up to Sony and say, hey, you want this game? Okay, yeah. Instead of we'll just say, you know, $30, right, per unit that we would normally take, we're going to take $40 per unit sold. So, I mean, is there a possibility that they do something like that? Who knows? But it is interesting. You know, some people are saying, well, is the CMA going to have a change of heart after this and seeing this new information kind of come into play? I just think Sony's not throwing enough of the book at them to say, here's every single instance of like what could happen, what has already happened. Like, you're citing Call of Duty and you're citing Redfall. Clearly, you're not fighting enough to keep this deal from happening.
Well, and like, I had heard somebody made a point about it this week, because Jim Ryan also came out and said some, like, I mean, you know, they're being very dramatic about this. And he said, you know, our sales would never recover and it would destroy our ability to compete. And it's like, well, you know, it's not their job to make sure that you're effectively running your company. Like, if losing a third party, despite how well received all of your first party content is and how it's like industry leading and standard, like, if you have that and you can't keep your own house together, like, that's not anybody else's job but yours.
You know, and I have to question Sony on this too. Like, you have these fantastic first party titles. How difficult is it to make a Call of Duty clone and make it
or
first party?
Something different? Like, look at Apex. Like, Apex is like huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it may not be the same size or exact thing as Call of Duty, but like, there's still much more room to innovate and make new next games. Like, that's what you are there for, is to make new games, not necessarily to rely on a third party studio to keep feeding you bread and butter microtransactions.
Well, and if you had, like, say they release Medal of Honor and they literally copy and pasted everything in terms of mechanics for Call of, like, literally everything, copy pasted, other than maybe like the skins on characters, right? And you threw a Medal of Honor tag on there, gamers would still enjoy that just as much. As long as the gameplay is there and the content is good, they're going to move forward with playing that game. And we've seen it time and time again with, you know, first person shooters that have come out over the years. Like, there's always some sort of following. Now, granted, Call of Duty does have that massive following, but people are also sick of the fact that they release a new damn Call of Duty every single year. So if you get, say you re-release Resistance and you put a new spin on it and you make it feel and play like a Call of Duty, you're likely going to get more people. I remember when Resistance first came out, the lobbies were insane when it first came out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I used to play it online all the time and it was a blast. So I don't, like, if Resistance came out now, I would probably play some Resistance online.
Mm-hmm.
if a new Resistance came out, or if a new Killzone came out and it wasn't as like, kind of sluggish with the character movement, it's probably something I would play in multiplayer as well.
I think
That's
it would be a lot different too if Halo was doing well. Like the fact that Halo Infinite is just such a know nothing these days, like, and it would be one thing if it was like, okay, now they're going to have the two biggest shooters in the market,
yeah.
but they really like it. Almost seems like Xbox is like really dying to get their hands on Call of Duty to shore up their shooter side because Halo's been so disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's possible. All right, let's dive into our next thing here, which is, does Nintendo need a cinematic universe? And this is Ben Lindbergh at The Ringer. And I will tell you, this article was a ringer. It was long,
Yeah.
but it was actually, it was worth
There's a
the
lot in
read.
there.
There's a lot, but it was worth the read. I mean, he dives into like, the history of Nintendo and Sony discussing, having a movie developed by Sony, not Illumination Studios. He goes into really just everything you can think of that would go on the back end of the cinematic aspects of, cinema, and getting this movie, and how Nintendo was super hesitant to move forward for decades with a new movie after what happened with, the original Mario movie in, I think it's 93 is when that game was released. So, really just dives into every little nitty gritty detail. But the key thing that comes from this is a cinematic universe, and we likely will have that now, just based on the pure success that this movie has had on a global basis. I think it was this morning, that it's hit 350 million worldwide. In terms of revenue generated for this movie, they're not even a week in, and it's generated 350 million. Like, it's easily going to be $1 billion film. There's no doubt about that. We'll likely see spin-offs of other movies. We'll likely see a sequel to this movie as well. Apparently it's been left open for a sequel.
I bet this is going to be the first DVD Blu-ray a lot of people buy in a long time.
Honestly, yeah. Best Buy, I think, has a steel book edition of this for pre-order. So yeah, they're going to sell a crap ton of, and it's honestly,
and think of all the new merch. Like, Mario merch is already pretty abundant, just like retro Mario merch, but like, I can only imagine that this will ignite like a whole new wave of shirts and backpacks and lunch boxes and all that stuff.
Well, Nintendo's goal, and it's stated in this
People
article
still have
too,
lunch boxes. Is that a thing?
If it's Nintendo branded, and yeah. So basically, like, he goes in this article to say, like, Nintendo's intention is to make Mario bigger than Mickey Mouse, which honestly, very, very possible. I would think, Nintendo probably has a better foothold on a global basis than Mickey Mouse in a lot of aspects. So yeah, I mean, the real question is like, do we need a Nintendo cinematic universe? Personally, I don't know. I don't know that I would care for it. I'd probably still watch the movies. But as rabid as Nintendo fans are, and I've brought this up a number of times, Nintendo fans are rabid. If you look at critic reviews on this movie, it's like 55%. Like, it's listed as rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. Viewers have it at 96% with like over 5,000 reviews. I can guarantee you the casual moviegoer is not looking at that film and saying, oh, it's 100%. That is 100% Nintendo fans is what that is. People trying to just amp it up for sales purposes because they have like this thought in the back of their head that Nintendo is going to treat me right if I give everything a 5-star review, if I buy all of their products. Like, Nintendo knows its fan base. They know they're going to purchase anything. We could have Nintendo condoms out there and people would still buy them. We saw it with cereal boxes too. So, I'm not completely sold on a cinematic universe. I need to see this movie myself to give a full-blown review on like my thoughts on the film, and if I would truly want to see a cinematic universe. But I do listen to critics a lot on films as well. And so generally I agree with critical reviews that are critical reviews, listening critical role. I generally like align with like what critics are saying about a film when I go watch one. So I would not be surprised if I go into this movie thinking, it's okay. It's not the best thing ever. It's not as hyped up as it should have been. And that completely sways my opinion to like, please, no cinematic universe.
I mean, it's just a family popcorn movie from what I've heard. Like, it's about 130-minute runtime with the credits. and it just runs at a breakneck speed. It doesn't really slow down or give you a lot of time to like do a whole lot. So I mean, in those senses, it probably just doesn't meet a lot of the high marks for like film. But you know, as just like a, oh man, this is the Nintendo thing that you always thought you would see, like it's supposed to be pretty good there. But like for NCU here, I don't know, man. Like I think that the the idea of having other Nintendo properties would be cool. Like from what I've heard, like you know, there could be like additional stuff. Like people would want to see like a Luigi's Mansion with Charlie Day, or they would want to see maybe more of the Kongs with like Seth Rogen, and then introduce like, you know, the other Kongs, and make something there. I mean, I think it would be really cool. Everybody's always wanted to see like a really dope Zelda animated fantasy film, or I know that there was at one time in works like a Star Fox puppet show, like the old style kind of thing, and
I think
that
they said claymation on here, like
uh
a claymation style.
yeah, but I think there had been like a puppet thing in the work at one point too, with I think it was like Adam Conover or something. I may be misremembering that, but like either way, like I would like to see more Nintendo property stuff licensed out and used in fun and interesting ways, including like movies and television. But I don't think that they all need to be like, these all look exactly the same and they all fit perfectly together and they're all lining up to lead somewhere and it's all going to culminate in a Smash Bros movie. Like interconnected Nintendo Cinematic Universe, I'm not so jazzed about, but just more Nintendo stuff in different iterations and styles. Like, give me just like a really cool, like dark, no dialogue, you know, short film of Metroid, and make it like kind of scary, but like I don't want to see like a whole movie where it's like, I'm Samus and I'm gonna save the universe, you know, either.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting is like when those critic reviews came out for this movie, like in the 50s, all the fanboys came out and were like, oh, well, it's a kids movie. Like it's supposed to be a kids movie, blah, blah. And I think I sent you a screenshot of like, it was like, yeah, well, kids movies actually have good plots sometimes and good story, like good character development. And the critics are saying that it doesn't have that, that it just feels like you're watching a Nintendo game be played out on screen, evidently. So, you know, I think the whole like 96%, the hype and everything else is coming from this. Yeah, it's a kids movie. It's supposed to be a fun movie, right? For children.
Well, I've been hearing that it's a family movie, not a kids movie, because a kids movie has like fart jokes and they say butt, and it's just like
Yeah,
things like that. It's not that kind of movie.
Yeah, you're right. It is more of like that kind of DreamWorks type of film that you kind of go into, and there's going to be some like adult puns that you're going to catch throughout the film, I would imagine, especially with like the Kongs and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm going to be seeing it next Sunday. So not this Sunday, but the following. And I don't know. I'll get my thoughts on it afterwards. So we'll see. Okay. Next thing here is Microsoft escalates war against PlayStation, Nintendo emulation on the Xbox Series X and S. This is Ethan Gack at Kotaku. We got to have this guy on at some point. Like we read all his articles.
This is not what I thought I was going to see again. Like when the Xbox Series systems were like first launching, like I remember seeing people talking about like how hot and pop in the emulation scene was on there. And I was like, oh, interesting. I wouldn't have, you know, assumed that that was, you know, what people would automatically jump to. But I mean, it makes sense. People always start homebrewing things like basically right away. But with the, you know, modern era and having like marketplaces and apps to download and stuff, like obviously Microsoft has to protect itself and kind of limit its exposure to other companies and their ability to, you know, call them out and raise a stink and try to be like, hey, what's going on here with this? So they're trying to like save face there. But on the other hand, like Dolphin is about to get published onto Steam Deck as like an actual like thing. So that's that's emulation too. I
Well,
think go
and
ahead.
the emulation's not going from Xbox Series X and S. Like this is just under standard, your standard ability to mess with your Xbox. Like if you have the developer mode for it, and it's like a $20 fee, you could
Yeah.
still do emulation on your Xbox. They're just making it a little harder on there apparently.
Yeah. And I mean, if you really want emulators, I mean, you could do it on anything. Like, I mean, do you need a Series X to do it? Like, you can't use just like the last console or any other console. Like, I imagine it's probably easier on the older consoles that are all figured out than to have to fight Xbox constantly so that you could play like PlayStation 1 games. Like, maybe if you're trying to do something and push really hard on like some like I don't know if you can even emulate like PS3 on an Xbox, like if that's what they're talking about, like sure, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, like you could get a Raspberry Pi, throw in a micro SD card of a crap ton of gigabytes on it, and emulate on there. Like it's not difficult to do. And there's so many. Like you could buy Chinese knockoff devices with 10,000 games on them on like Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So like if it's retro games we're talking about, okay, whatever. But if we're talking like Wii, Nintendo 64, GameCube, that type of stuff, where you're starting to really get up in there. And yeah, I can see where there would be a benefit to doing it on an Xbox, but again, you could do that on a good PC too. So yeah, I think it's more so the aspect of being able to sit on your couch and play it with a wireless controller. But again, I could technically do that with a PlayStation 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or a Wii. My Wii's
Or
homebrewed.
a Wii. Actually, yeah, Wii's that are homebrewed are probably much better for all of us.
They play DVDs.
DV when they're hacked?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Yeah. So not much on that, but if you're in that type of thing, developer mode is what's for you on the Xbox Series XS. So really just kind of a, PSA for people out there. All right. Our last bit here is our inflation deflation segment for Rain on Your Parade. This was developed by Unbound Creations, published by Premium Edition Games. The studio lead is Jacob Kubazar or Kostalski. So Jacob Kostalski. I had that, like I read it multiple times beforehand and it just didn't click right then. April 2021 is when it was released. It is a puzzle action type game for reception of 7 out of 10 on average. The plot is you play as a cute cardboard cloud and ruin everyone's day. So as Barry Carenza of Premium Edition Games described it to us, it's like Katamari with an asshole cloud.
Mm-hmm.
You travel the world unlocking new methods of mischief in over 50 levels, each with unique settings and objectives. Customize your cloud of accessories, draw your own face, and this is really the ultimate, what the hell's that word?
Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude simulator. I had never, ever seen that word in my life. So I'll kick it off here. I really enjoyed this game.
Yeah.
I know their series when they launched this, they had a couple different games, but this was the one that like really, really stood out to me as like, that's interesting and unique because Premium usually releases, modern retro done right. And this one technically wouldn't constitute as like retro per se. But if you kind of think about like Katamari and how old that is, it probably would, go in as like retro in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
And so really just, like the plot says, you travel around as a cloud and you rain on people's parade. You're raining all over them. There's elements where you can like pick up different things. So there's a particular level, which was a lot of fun, where you have to burn the place down. And I think it's called Burn It All Down is the objective. And you soak up oil and you take oil to a fire and you literally just rain oil on everything and blow the entire level up. And then there's other levels, like we played one where you had to gather as many points as possible at a club or like a rock concert, and you just rain on everything within a certain, really until your rain meter falls, and just like get a ton of points. Exploring the overworld was a ton of fun as well. All the little like hidden elements, like at one point Ryan's like, hey, rain on that flower and see what happens, and it like blooms, and we unlocked a thing for our cloud. So that was pretty cool. I did like the music in it. The music was it felt right. It felt good for like what we were playing. It like had that cutesy little vibe in the background. It's like, or whatever, and you're just kind of raining on everything and destroying things. I do like the objectives in the game where you're not just going into a level like a Katamari where you're like soaking everything up or rolling everything over. I mean, and Katamari does have objectives, but they're a little more obscure. This is more laid out for you. So like you can screw around and do your thing, but you don't have some crazy time limit. And you're just like, you're messing around and you're exploring with this cloud
There's a
and
lot of fun
cosmetic.
interactions to find with different things, and like you can I mean, it's not just crazy straightforward easy either. Like, I mean, it's a simple puzzle game, but I mean, there were definitely levels where I had to kept like restarting because I kept screwing up like some aspect of it, and it wasn't because it was like obtuse or anything. It was just, a little bit challenging at times. So
Yeah.
there were aspects of it that are still like, oh, well, I couldn't figure out the extra objective on this level, so I did everything else. I'll come back later. Or
Yeah.
like there was a level where I did something and it just was like, oh, here's an extra objective that wasn't even on like the checklist. Good job. Way to find that. So those little bonuses and hidden things are fun. The overworld itself, like we were talking earlier, is huge and interactive and cute, and I love the texture of the water.
That was
Um,
actually really cool. How
yeah,
it's kind of like a matte finish or glossy finish.
yeah, the
Yeah.
just the aesthetic of this game is so like tactile and like looks so hand built. It's adorable, and I really did enjoy that part of it.
Yeah, I know when you and I were discussing, like, all right, we have a choice between two games that we want to like grab, right? And play through and unbox and all of that. At first you're kind of like, oh man, I kind of wanted to play this other one, but I forget, I think it was the
Wonderling.
yeah, Wonderlink DX. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like Rain on Your Parade just looks like an absolute blast. And
Yeah.
I think we had a good time with that. Um, so there are two versions Premium Edition Games has. One of them is the Standard Edition, which is $49.95 new, and then you have the Retro Edition, which is $69.95. I think obviously Retro Edition sold out. You're not going to get it unless they have like
No,
some
it's listed
overstock.
on their website actually.
It was sold out the other day when I checked.
Yeah, it's not one of the ones that says unavailable. They've got
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah, so they got the regular edition for $49.95 and the retro edition for $69.95.
Gotcha. So with the retro edition, we have an unboxing that we'll be posting on YouTube and our social media platforms. But you have a coaster that comes with it. You've got a nice, really cool pin that comes with it as well. Of course, you get your challenge card, your manual, all that. You do get some stickers, like some pretty cool stickers that come with the retro edition. A nice box, like outer box that comes with it, and then everything that would be in the standard version as well. For $69.95, I don't think that's too bad to get and that coaster is actually pretty cool looking
Mm-hmm.
when it's all said and done. So I think, those extra little goodies are nice, and you're supporting a smaller publisher of these
And
games, and they're putting out great stuff, and they're trying to put as much money into the pockets of, in this case, Unbound Creations, right? So like your money is going towards, smaller indie developers who otherwise, in the case of their digital console version and PC versions on Steam, you're looking at $14.99. They're probably making more money going with premium edition games than that, right? On a unit sold. So I like the aspect of, supporting those small indie developers, and something like that retro edition is great in my opinion. And then of course the standard edition is solid too. Premium does a great job with its outer boxes, and
yeah, can't say
with
enough about the quality of them.
yeah, it really should be a quality edition games, right? Um, so yeah, I really do enjoy the product that they put out, and the thought that they put into these releases. It's not just another release, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not, let's throw it in a bubble mailer and send it off, right? It's well packaged. Every game I've ever purchased from them is well packaged. It's good quality materials. You don't run into broken pieces, at least in my experience. Whereas with some of these other places I've literally purchased things that have been torn, that have been crushed, that have had plastic bits loose inside from these other like publishers that are out there. I don't get that with them. And I think this was, just proof again that they really do take care of their product when it's shipped out.
Yeah.
So go on.
This is a new game for physical. It just came out like a couple months ago. So there's not really a lot of history on tracking. So, I mean, you could find it, online probably being resold by somebody, but at this point you're probably better off just getting it from premium because it's so new. If you are looking just for a digital, you can pick that up on consoles or PC for about $15. I mean, overall, I'd say this is definitely like at least worth it.
Yeah, I think it's worth it. And I think it depends on which way you're looking at it, right? So premium edition is not, it's usually like an open pre-order, right? And then they have some extra stock that comes from that. And that's usually why it's available right now. But, you're not going to find it new otherwise, unless it gets re-released somewhere else. Like, this is the only way to get a physical copy. So if you're a Switch
this will
collector,
be the run.
Yeah. If you're a Switch collector and you are looking to have a complete set, or you want the most out of that game, obviously the physical version is the way to go, and purchasing that online. I've seen their games go on like Amazon and stuff, and it's usually much higher than what it's originally released for. So now's the time to grab it at $49.95 if that's what you want to do. Otherwise, it is definitely worth it at $14.99 on digital console or PC. I would buy this at $15 for sure. And if I'm looking to collect physical versions of Switch games, and for sure $49.95 to get this game, I think is great. And it's got a lot of content, so it's not like you're paying $50 for like 5 hours of content. Like, you're paying $50 for like 50 levels that you can replay as well and explore various areas. So it's not like a small game either. So our rating is going to be just right on this one, sounds like. If you had to, so Ryan, if you had to rate on a scale of 1 to 10 though, where do you put it? Like, I'm sitting at like an 8 personally.
Yeah, I mean, we don't usually do that, but sure,
might as well, right? All fun in there. Okay, cool. Well, next week we're going to be playing a little bit of Tenchu Z on the Xbox 360. I don't think we've done an Xbox 360 game before on the podcast.
Have we not?
I don't think so. You'd have to scroll a lot to find one. So I'm not going to say look it up right now. But yeah, I don't think we've done one before. If we have, it's only been like one time. It's not really a console that we've dug into. I think we've only done like Xbox on the Xbox 360, if I recall. So,
yeah, I don't see anything.
Yep. All right. Well, this has been episode 230 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John.
I'm Ryan.
And thanks for listening.